Ryan Fowler, host of The Game in Tuscaloosa on 100.9. Ryan, appreciate you jumping on with us today. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Do I get to call the picks? Can I? I mean, can I do the pick call, right? I mean,
you can call the Hog.
Do a Hog call? I mean, we're all for it if you want. Go for it. You've heard it done before, I'm sure.
Well, Woo Pig Suey.
Yeah, but I mean, what are they? Razorbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the energy.
Drew, who's sitting across from me here, is not a native Arkansan. He's been doing this show with us for 13 months.
No, I've done the call
time
before.
Frame, he's learned how to do it properly.
Okay, well, now I don't know how to do it
Drew, you
going
to give him a lesson?
Can you give me a lesson?
Well, here's the main thing. Here's the main thing when it comes to doing a true Woo Pig Suey is you don't howl. That's one thing that will get you yelled at more than anything when doing it. It's a woo.
It's a woo, not a ooh, like you'll hear
like that.
People.
Okay, see, this is way too complicated. I just thought it was something.
And originally, it's supposed to, as the woo goes for as long as it's supposed to be. I think from what Frank Boyle says, from the toes to the top of the head.
Okay.
That's how long you're supposed to do it. But most people just go like this, and then you kind of stay here for a minute. And then
Okay. I love college football. Isn't it?
It is great.
I mean, we have the best job in the country. We talk football every single day, right? I mean, we get paid for this. This is pretty awesome, but it's going to be on with you guys.
Ryan, come to the Arkansas-Alabama game in Fayetteville October 1st, and you'll learn how to do the Hog Call just by sitting in the press box watching fans do it. And it should be a pretty good game, just judging by what we saw from last year between Arkansas and Alabama. Got a lot of folks that are picking Arkansas second to Alabama in the West. What do you think about that?
Well, I think Sam Pittman, this is not something that's not already been said a million times, but I'm a guy that I believe that the trenches is where you win football games. And, it's one of my concerns about Alabama. Listen, I think Alabama's going to be a great football team, but the offensive line's got some questions. I'm sure we'll get into that. But if you look at Sam Pittman building this team, he seems to have a lot of things going for him. I think player relationships, something I'm judging that. Remember, I'm 10 hours away, but I'm judging it from that perspective. When you look at Sam Pittman building the trenches, having player relationships, and recruiting players that can play. Listen, Drew Sanders was a really solid player in Tuscaloosa, and I think he'll do really good things there in Fayetteville. So when you take and you combine stars and recruiting to be able to go into that living room, now everything changes based on NIL. I mean, who knows? I mean, Mike Leach just told us 15 minutes ago, and recruiting is now about outbidding. I mean, it's what it is, and that's where we're at. So you take all those things out. But, hey, listen, I know what Northwest Arkansas is. I mean, you guys got some cash up there. I mean, there's a few name brands up there. So, and there's a guy that, just happens to own my Dallas Cowboys that's got plenty of cash too. So you guys are going to – I think Arkansas is a threat. And I don't know if you think they can do it this year, but I think they can finish – and I think everybody's fighting for that second spot in the SEC West.
Yeah, I think that's really the ceiling for Arkansas. I think Alabama's just too darn good. And when I listened to Coach Saban talk today, and I don't know what he said, in the electronic media events or with you guys and all the local guys, but what he said there on the stage is the same thing that I've heard all summer and all since NIL and transfer portal all came about, that we need to regulate it. He loves to throw out these two phrases that it makes me cringe when he does it. He likes to say it needs to be fair and balanced in college football. Can you get the message to him that college football has never been fair and balanced, and that there's always been have and have-nots? How come just now with this issue is it whoa? And it's not just Saban; it's a lot of coaches. Why is it just now that we need to think about fairness? Because from a guy who's grew up a group of five guy, it's never been fair.
Fair and balanced 3 or 4 years ago is much different than fair and balanced now. And I think when you look at, he pointed out the NFL, and he said the NFL has salary caps, right? I mean, my Dallas Cowboys, as rich as they may be, they cannot go out and spend double what everybody else does. And I think right now you don't have any limits. And I think all the coaches, like I said, Mike Leach has said it, Nick Saban has said it, when you are using NIL, and keep in mind, this is still illegal. Now, the big question is Mark Emmert and the NCAA going to enforce that? I think that answer is no. But right now, people are breaking the rules when you're offering these NIL deals as a recruiting incentive.
Mm-hmm.
And, you look at Texas A&M, you look at their recruiting chart, and you think about finishing where they did. I mean, they had the greatest signing class ever in a history of recruiting. Well, I don't think people wake up in Pennsylvania going, I want to be an Aggie.
Mm-hmm.
And so something had to happen with bringing that much talent in. I'm not just trying to repeat what Nick Saban said. I think Andy Staples has done a really good job of kind of documenting that there was a lot of monetary issues that exchanged hands out there. So is it fair and balanced? I agree with what you said. There has been the haves and the have-nots. But I think when you look at right now what's happening in college athletics, if they don't get a hold on it, it can become a big problem in college athletics. And if that's where we want to go, then okay, let's just say, you know what, pay them what you want to pay them. Let's roll out salaries. Forget about holding back on NIL. If you want to make it this legal, roll out where we just have a salary in college football. And that may be the direction.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, this is a conversation that is going to last until the NCAA and there's actually guidelines put in. But let's talk football. It's something that hasn't been going on a lot in the college football realm. Saw you about an hour and a half ago. You had on Bryce Young onto your show, and you also had Will Anderson a little bit earlier as well. And Nick Saban talked about those guys and just how great of leaders they truly are. But when it comes to Bryce, how can he improve? How can he build off of last season? And, there's a reason you've only seen one college football player win back-to-back Heismans, because it's so much harder to top what you did the year before. Does he have that ability, and do you think that he can, make a true run at a second Heisman?
Well, and we talked about in the trenches a couple of minutes ago. Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy running for his life. His offensive line failed him last year. I mean, if there's one thing that you're not able to question about Bryce Young, and that's his toughness, because he took a lot of hits. I think if you look at protection, sacks allowed last year, Alabama was 121 out of 130 teams in protecting the quarterback. So when you look at the toughness, I think in some ways that offensive line has a chance to be a little bit more consistent. So when you combine that, I think the depth at running back is going to be, I don't have to teach you guys in Arkansas about running the football and how you win football games with being physical. But the question is will Bill O'Brien being able to, will he do it? Will he be able to utilize running the football? With Bryce Young, a Heisman passer in your backfield, everybody wants to be creative. Everybody wants to be cute. Still wins football games. And when you think about Jace McClellan and Roy Dale Williams coming off of injury, you add Jahmyr Gibbs from Georgia Tech, which is going to be a name that you're going to know 3 or 4 weeks into the season, like this guy's really burst on the scene. Jermaine Burton, which didn't have a quarterback that wanted to feature him as a wide receiver at Georgia. They were more throwing to the tight end was kind of the lead receiver, so he came from Georgia over to Alabama. I always think about that dynamics, right? Does he wear his championship ring in the locker room, being a Georgia wide receiver last year? Tyler Harrell's going to be able to come in, speedster out of Louisville. So you look at the weapons. They check a lot of the boxes, but they've got to find that left tackle and that right tackle. Who are these guys? Because it's important, because, one hit to Mr. Bryce Young and you're down to your backup quarterback. So protecting him, it's one of the highest paid jobs in the NFL. It needs to be a point of emphasis going into fall camp.
So they're going to be trying to stop Drew Sanders coming around the edge when Arkansas and Oklahoma and when Arkansas and Alabama meet. Why did Sanders leave Alabama, and what is Arkansas getting from him? It feels like this is someone that could make a very big impact quickly.
Well, Drew Sanders is a dynamic football player, and I think when you go back and look at his recruiting, there were several people that even wanted him, coaches that wanted him to play tight end. That tells you the athlete. And I think Drew Sanders, I thought if he would have stayed, that he might have got a chance to go inside and compete for the Jalen Moody spot that's right beside Henry To'oTo'o at that inside backer spot. But when you look at outside is pretty crowded right now. You've got Will Anderson. You've got Dallas Turner, which Drew Sanders had a little injury. Dallas Turner came in and look, he put up numbers that surpassed Will Anderson's freshman season from the edge side. Now, when you look at a name that you probably don't know a lot about, is Chris Braswell. Chris Braswell's a name that we're going to know a lot about in the Southeastern Conference. They're trying to find a role for him. They've even looked at trying to put 3 edge guys on the field at the same time just to get these guys. They've got 3 elite edge rushers, and I think it was a numbers game. I think Drew Sanders probably looked at it and said, these guys are significantly going to cut down into my playing time. And every interaction that I've ever had with Drew Sanders was A+, 10 out of 10. I think you guys are getting a heck of a football player. He kind of reminds you of an Arkansas linebacker. Little physical, get a little blood on the uniform. Never going to stop Drew Sanders. That's what I see in Drew Sanders.
Yeah, I definitely see him fitting perfectly with Arkansas. So let's talk about this Arkansas-Alabama matchup that we're going to see later on into the second half of the season. Or actually, it's pretty early this year, isn't it? It's week 5, right? Week 5 or week 6? I think it's week 6. Week 5. Week 5. Yeah,
okay.
Week 5. I'm sorry. I was thinking about last year's on my mind because I want to ask you about that. And how much of a kind of a punch in the mouth was it for Alabama when they played Arkansas? Because it was a big time moment, even in a loss for Arkansas, to say, like, hey, we hung in there. They were right there, barely losing to the number 1 team in the country in Alabama. So how big of a game is that going to be, you think, circled as far as Tide fans this year?
No, I think it will be. But nothing's going to surpass Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And you got to keep in mind, where's that Texas A&M game in Alabama? It's the week after Arkansas. So in some ways, you almost fear, if you're Coach Saban, a look ahead. We're already having Alabama players that have made quotes about, we can't wait for Texas A&M. I mean, I came from Will Anderson, and I don't know, but you guys saw him earlier this morning. I'd hate to make him mad. I don't think I'd want to get him irritated. So they're going to back up their coach. And I'm not a gambler, but you know how these handicappers come on and they say 5-star lock of the month, lock of the week, call me 1-800.
Yeah.
You don't even have to pick up the phone. Take Bama minus the points. If it's 21, take it. If it's 20, take it. If it's 15, take it. If it's 28, take it. I've never seen a focus that Alabama guys don't, and Nick Saban doesn't really talk about opposing teams, but he did about Texas A&M. I think this one's become a little bit personal, and you hear from Texas A&M, they kind of feel the same way. Whoever officiates that game, good luck with that officiating crew. But going back to your original question, the look ahead would be my fear, if you're looking at it from an Alabama perspective, that they could be looking ahead to Texas A&M, which is the week after, and not giving full.
Hey, Ryan, we're up against it, so we'll
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's Wimbledon Finals, Major League Baseball, the latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet online, where the game starts.